I don't. Oh, there's Heather. Okay, and Brian Darcy was the other person who was supposed to join us. So I don't know if anybody has heard from Brian.
I did ask him. He said he wouldn't be able to make it tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You are live.
Okay. Ready? So we'll begin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Gaeta. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Stratford Public Schools. I want to welcome you here this evening to join us for our public forum. Last month, during the month of May, the Superintendent, Dr. Janet Robinson, assembled a committee to help develop a reopening plan for the Stratford Public Schools in the fall of 2021. We posted a draft of that plan on the website. And last week we opened an email address for questions to be directed for this evening's presentation. And so we have a list of those questions about the various aspects of the plan that we've received, and some sort of recurring topics or themes of interest to those who have sent in questions. So this evening we have with us several people who were involved on the committee, as well as those who are very much involved in helping us make decisions about the safety of our school. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Janet Robinson. And Dr. Robinson, I don't know if you would like everybody to introduce themselves or if you would just like to explain who's here. Thank you. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is part of our ARP, American Rescue Plan, ESSER grant. And in compliance with this, we are getting feedback from you, our community members, all of our stakeholders, and we value your questions and your concerns, and we're going to try to answer those as best we can tonight. This is being recorded, and if there are questions that are not addressed tonight, you certainly may still submit questions, and we will make sure that they are answered. So starting with our lead nurse, who has been invaluable throughout this entire time, I'm going to have each one of you introduce yourselves. Kim, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening, everybody. Kim Velasquez here, just like Dr. Robinson said, lead nurse for the town of Stratford. Thank you.
And you'll be hearing from her shortly. Harold, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Harold Greist. I'm the secondary math and science coordinator, or STEM coordinator for the district.
Thank you, Harold. Samantha, would you introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. Sam Rosenberg here, the pre-K through 6th grade STEM coordinator for Stratford Public Schools.
Thank you. And Heather, would you introduce yourself?
I am Heather Borges. I'm the Director of Pupil Services for the Stratford Public Schools.
We're very delighted that you all could be here with us tonight. There are other people who've been involved with this team who are not able to make it tonight, but we certainly appreciate you're here and representing the team that worked so hard on this. The plan is posted on the website. We want to start today with dealing with the questions that are health related. This is a health crisis, and these questions are really vital to all decisions. So, Kim Velasquez, we have a number of questions. You've put them into some categories, so we can talk about those in terms of general topics. I'm going to let you take the first concept questions and your answer as best we know at this time.
Sure. So I'd like to begin with, I looked over the questions today, and there's several themes, so I'm going to group them into the topics that you've been asking for more information about. So we're going to start with some testing. That was one of the first questions. And as you know, that part of this plan as we move forward looking for the next school year, there will be some required testing for COVID. And that could look like a PCR test. Many of you may have heard that. That's a test that typically is done by a nasal swab, sometimes saliva, and it will be sent off to a lab. Now, what this will look like, we still don't know. We're waiting for further guidance from Connecticut DPH and also the Department of Ed. As we move through the summer, we'll get more information. But there'll be some form of testing. I know it's very important for parents to know exactly what's going to take place at school. That information will be shared prior to starting school, so you have time to look at it, understand it, ask questions. And again, if anything comes throughout the summer, that I can give you more information about that. It'll give you more time to look into this. But right now, we're still waiting for guidance also. Another question regarding testing came up is rapid testing. Rapid testing is the quick test for COVID. That will still be offered in the schools. Each school nurse will have the test kits available next school year. If a staff member or student comes in not feeling well, that test is available. And of course, we would reach out to parents prior to doing that test. It is a nasal swab. We would get permission from the parent to perform the test. Parent can't deny that rapid test and have them take their child to be seen by their pediatrician. And again, that will be available. The next major topic was masks. What are we going to be doing with masks next year? Right now, you know that schools are still required to be masking. That's for vaccinated and unvaccinated people. It's looking like we may still use masks this coming school year. But again, throughout the summer, we'll be given more information. We'll wait from the state so they can provide us guidance so we can share that information. Again, we're waiting just like you are. And with every week, we'll get additional information, and throughout the summer, we'll communicate that with you. In regards to quarantine and also isolation. So you know that if someone tests positive for COVID, that's called isolation. It will still require that positive person to isolate for 10 days. In terms of quarantine, we're currently using a 10-day quarantine. That may change. We're not sure. We'll know more throughout the summer. We are going to be looking at quarantining based on close contact again, where the positive person sat, what did they do that day, who they were in contact with, those who are not vaccinated, those who are vaccinated. That all comes into play when we start to contact trace and determine who needs to quarantine. We'll have that written out for you so you can take a look at it and plan accordingly in case your child is quarantined. Those were the hot topics in terms of questions that you posed. Harold, can you take a quick look and see if I missed anything?
I think you covered all of the ones from the that you had captured. And I think, did you address the question, so vaccinated, unvaccinated children, we're not going to be separating them into separate classrooms, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kim, you made a really good point that I hope people pick up on, is that the direction as to whether there are masks being required in schools is going to come to us from our state PH. That is not a school by school decision or a district by district decision. So I'm glad you brought that into your conversation.
Dr. Robinson, I'd just like to add one other thing. Very often, sometimes what the public is doing is a little different than what schools are required to do. So I'd like to always stress that sometimes it makes it confusing why something can be done in the public sector and something's different happening in the schools. Just like you said, constant communication with Department of Ed and Connecticut DPH, and schools are held to a higher standard sometimes. So I understand that can get confusing and frustrating sometimes, but just know that sometimes what we do in school is going to look different than what the public is doing. And that's, again, for the safety of our children and our staff.
Yes. Thank you. That's a really good point that we have to keep in mind. So there will be other kinds of health questions that may come up to you as parents or community members, and feel free to put those into your questioning as you look at our plan online. Now, keep in mind, as with our original reopening plan, we had to be nimble at times if things changed. There were times when we did, in fact, have cases. Kim spent a great deal of time doing contact tracing, and we had to quarantine. And sometimes we found that with new research, we had to change guidelines in our plan. So we will be doing the same thing. That's why we're calling this plan a draft at this point. But believe me, we keep up with what the state is asking us to do. I want to pick up on the other section, which was the continuity of services section. And all the questions here seem to pertain to quarantine, Kim. And you brought up quarantine in your statements. Let me say to parents, just remember the issue around whether or not your child is quarantined. It has to do too with whether or not they are vaccinated. So at this point, students of 12 years and above may be vaccinated. They're eligible to be vaccinated. So when we start talking about the quarantine, I think that many of the questions I have here are probably elementary level questions. The children are below the age that at this point are approved for vaccination. So as you heard Kim say, the contact tracing, when there is an individual who is positive, they'll be looking at who has the closest contact. It won't necessarily be just because they were in the same class. It's going to be who has the closest contact, what was that positive person doing through the day, and then they will make a determination as to whether it's appropriate to quarantine. As you can see from the plan, we have not designed teachers teaching from two platforms at the same time. At one point, having the students in front of them teaching live, but at the same point, teaching students who are at home. That is not part of this plan. So as in any kind of illness or sick day in the past, the students will have the opportunity to catch up on their work, do their work. The teachers will post things online. And the state is having some state discussions about what they might provide in terms of supplementary help. But the district right now has no plans for having teachers teach on a dual platform. So remote learning will not automatically kick in. It's just not feasible for our teachers to continue doing this. One other question that came up was, what will class sizes be? They will be identical to what they have been in the past. We have had class sizes that depends on the grade level. There are times when we have class sizes that are very small just because there are very few students who register in that particular grade level. And then there are times we have what we call a bubble. And as those students move through the system, their class just happens to have more students in it. We do everything we can to even those out, and we fight hard to keep our class sizes as small as possible and educationally sound. Those are the basic topics that we receive questions on. Does anyone wish to add anything to this? Linda? Dr. Gaeta?
Well, one of the things that we spoke about and the district has put into place is the support for students who have not been able to attend class or who haven't been engaged. And I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate a little on that, Dr. Robinson, in terms of the tutors and tutoring sessions that we'll have.
Yes, in one of the ways that we are using our ESSER funds to really support our students is in extra tutoring. So we have plans. Actually, we have in place extra tutors right now, both during the day and after school. We have summer school that will go for the next 2 summers, also for students who are out for a period of time and need to have some opportunities to get extra support. So if your child should be out and needs that support, the school will help them with the extra tutoring and help them catch up and make sure that instruction is clear and available to your child. So if there are no other comments at this time, I think this is our session, brings our session to an end. And Linda, Dr. Gaeta, would you like to just once more tell parents what they might do if they have additional questions?
Okay. Do you mind if I share my screen and then I can show them exactly what they can do?
Perfect.
So the first thing that we would want to do is I'm going to go to the site. Let's see. So when you came to the actual, when parents found, this is where I always come into trouble here. Okay. So parents found the link to get to the, sorry, I have a million things open here. Parents found the link to tonight's session at the Family Hub, and they also found a copy of the district plan. I wish I could. There we go. And at the top of this page, you all found the district plan. If you scroll down a little further, okay, you'll see that there are two feedback forms. So if you're interested in providing more information or asking an additional question, you can go to this site and this link and fill out the information here. There are several questions here that you can answer, and then an opportunity to add any other feedback to the district plan. So we hope that those of you who, as the summer goes on, or as time goes on, actually over the next couple of weeks, we're collecting data and information. So please use that link to provide additional information. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you very much to our team who made time for this evening, and I appreciate your being here to answer our parents' questions. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks. So Lou, are we all set?
1 second.
Nice job.